this problem. In this problem, as in all the problems in this, or most of the problems in this section, the way you do when you are asked for the magnitude or the resultant of a series of forces, what you have to do, you have to decompose the forces in the rectangular components. In this problem, it's very easy because it's 2D, so you have to get the components in the X and Y direction. Once you have the components in the X and Y direction, you just add all the X's, all the components in the X direction, then you add all the components in X direction, then all the components in the Y direction, and then those summations are the components of the resultant. So here, very easy, very easy. Let's see. You have a force P. This force can be expressed as P X, let's call it Px I plus Py J. And that's how you decompose all those forces. You probably are used to Px equal to P cosine theta, so P or something like that. This is true if you have the angle that the force makes with respect to the x-axis. But that's not always the case. If, for example, in this case, you have this angle, let's say you have this angle, then in this case, the component in the x direction will be P times the sine of the angle, right? So you have the component here, this will be Px. In this case, Px will be P cosine of 30 degrees. But if you have that angle alpha, let's say in this case, we know that this angle is 60 degrees. If you know that this angle is 60, this angle is 60, you can say also that Px is equal to P sine 60 degrees. You not necessarily have the angle that the force makes with the axis. You might have the complement of that angle, so that you, instead of using cosine, you will use sine. All right. Okay, let's continue here. So for P, you will do here the component. This is the x-axis. We always consider x positive to the right, right? So in this component is going in the opposite direction to the x positive, so it's a negative component. So you have to manually do here minus, the magnitude is 128, and then cosine 30. And that multiplied by I, right? And then we have the component of P in the vertical direction. Let's see that one here. See, this will be Py. So that will be, and look, Py is also going down, so it's also negative. You have to put negative, you have to put it manually. So you have 128 sine of 30 J. So that will give you some number here, and some number here. 110.85 I with a minus sign here, minus 128 times sine 30 equals 64 J. All right. Okay, that's P. Now let's go for Q. Q will be equals to this cosine of this angle. So that Q is here 158. And this one is positive because the component of the force Q is this one in the x direction. So it's going positive. So we have plus 158 cosine of the total angle here is 30 plus 15. So this angle is 45 I. And then the component on the y direction is this is the force Q. The component in the y direction will be this component here. This will be QY. So that will be minus, because it's going down, 158 sine of 45 J. Okay. 111.72 I equals here U. And positive because the component in the x direction is this one right here going positive, right? 158 times sine 45. Oh, the same value because sine and cosine of 45 is the same, right? So it will be the same value here, J. So now the S force will be this 291 cosine of 15 I plus, minus, so I made a mistake here. This is minus, right? This is minus here. So let's fix that here. This is minus. And the force S has also a negative component in the y direction. It's going down. So that will be 291 sine of 15 degrees J. So those numbers will be 281.08 I 75.030.316 J. We have the three forces with the components in the x and y direction. Let's reduce the size a little here. So now we have to take the summation of all the components in the x direction and all the components in the y direction, and those will be the x and y components of the resultant. So the resultant in the direction of x will be these values here, this plus this plus this, each one with the corresponding sign. So it will be minus 110.85 plus 111.72 plus 281. What did I say? 181.08 equals, and the resultant in the y direction will be this value here plus this value here plus this value here with the sign, with the corresponding sign. So there will be minus 64 minus 111.72 minus 75.316 to 81.95 to 51.04. So those are the components of the resultant, and it says here find the magnitude. Let's find the magnitude. So the magnitude, you get it by using Pythagorean theorem. So what we have so far is that we have the x-axis and the y-axis. This is negative here, and we have a component in the s direction of 281, so something like this, 282, and another going down 251, something like this, 251. So the resultant will be this force here. This is the resultant. So the magnitude of the resultant will be a square root of 281.95 square plus 251.04 square. So the resultant is going to be equal to 377.51. So this will be 378 pounds, right? So that's the magnitude. And the angle is direction measured clockwise from the positive axis. So this will be the positive axis. So clockwise will be like this. So let's call this one alpha, will be tangent minus 1 of the vertical direction, the vertical distance here divided by the horizontal distance here, 251 divided by 280, well, actually 51.04 and 281.95. Remember, 5 significant digits every time that you are doing intermediate calculations. So 251.04 divided by 281.95 equals our tangent of that 41. Since this is the final answer, will be 0.7 degrees. So this will be 41.7 degrees. All right, and that's it. Well, if I want to put this with my notation AAABBB, so it will be 378,417. This will be the number that I have to put into the computer for the quiz, right? Okay, agree? All right.